Awesome. We are live. We are very, very excited here for episode 5 of the OPTC podcast. We have very special guest, Malorie Henderlong. Malorie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mallory is a special guest for a lot of reasons, but most importantly, she is a an ally in strength and conditioning, and she's an ally and someone who shares similar coaching philosophies, shares so many good levels of experience all the way from playing in college, and we'll be able to let you have a little time to give your background and everything. But I mean, your whole kind of progression and pedigree is just it's super impressive, and someone that we were really excited to spend some time talking to and talking through a lot of things just related to training. And yeah, we're pumped to have you here.
Yeah, excited to do it with y'all.
Yeah, for sure. So, um, today I kind of wanted to start off just having a little bit of background on you. I know you played soccer at Spring Arbor. You had some successes there, both as an especially as an athlete. So, if you want to talk to us just about a little bit about your education, a little bit about some of your experiences between the multiple different schools that you've had a chance to both work at and intern at, and those kinds of things. We'd love to hear a little more about you.
Okay, yeah, I played soccer growing up. Went to Spring Arbor, small NAIA school in Michigan, played soccer there. Pretty elite program for the NAIA. I would say that at the time I was there, we probably could have competed with some high level Division I programs. We were a pretty good soccer program. But right, there wasn't a strength and conditioning coach on staff. It's a small school. We had two athletic trainers for all sports. So college strength conditioning was pretty foreign to me, but I had a private facility back home that I had gone to since the time I was in like fifth grade, I think. So I was familiar with a performance space. And then I just took what my strength coach back home had taught me and tried to apply it for myself at school and with my own teammates. And I think that's where kind of the birth of my career began, was just asking questions and like taking a deeper dive. And I always say I ended up enjoying the gym more than the soccer field at the end of my career.
Yeah.
And just some medical reasons, mental health, I decided to step away from the game, didn't play my senior season. And that just opened the door for me to step into my career. So going into my senior year of college, did an internship at TCU for 8 weeks over the summer. I coached football, cross country. It was on campus, I think, soccer, the basketballs, baseball. And I just fell in love with the idea of working in college athletics. You get to see an athlete come in as a freshman, they're a child, they know nothing. It's a culture shock, and you get to help them grow and develop into a better athlete. But more importantly, like a better person, and learn experiences in the weight room and on the field that are going to set them up for success in life, in a career, or if they continue to play their sport after college. So kind of was the birth of my love and passion for strength conditioning. But went on, was at the right place at the right time, and was a little crazy and got myself a GA position at TCU. So I graduated college a semester early to head back down to Texas, spent a year and a half there as a GA, took a part-time position at UNC, and was supposed to be there 11 months, was there 6 months. I was hungry for my first full-time job, interviewed for a ton of jobs and got told no a bunch,
Hmm.
right? You're too young, you're green, you don't have enough experience. It's not that you're bad. Someone else just has more experiences and better than you, and that's fine. But I think that's an important reminder for young coaches that are like seeking to get in this profession. You're going to be told no a lot, and that's okay. And just ask really great questions of what you could do better the next time in the interview process, or what's a trait that does set you apart that you do need to highlight the next time you interview elsewhere. Um, but then went on to Baylor, was there for 2.5 years, did an internship at Austin FC while I was there. Really forever indebted to the staff at Baylor, my boss at Baylor. I mean, he just encouraged me to grow and develop and challenged me in so many ways. Spent 6 months at NC State. I made that move knowing I wanted to work only soccer. That's my passion. And then strength conditioning is just my second passion. I get to combine the two. And so there I worked men's and women's soccer. I was there for 6 months, and then I got a phone call from Auburn. Everything comes full circle. So the first woman strength conditioning coach I worked with was at UNC. And she's now my boss. So, she made the move to Auburn. The week I made the move to NC State, I took her my moving boxes so she could use them. And she's like, come to Auburn. And I was like, I start work tomorrow. You're crazy. And then here we are. So I'm 1 year into being at Auburn. I have zero intentions of going anywhere anytime soon. I truly believe I'm working with the best soccer staff in the country that allows me to do my role to the best of my abilities. They challenge me to grow, to serve the program better. And I work alongside my best friend, who's building one of the best strength and conditioning departments in the country. I get to be a part of building something, which is really special to me. So a little long-winded, but I've had a lot of stops.
No, that's awesome. That's such a testament to like so much of the time, like whether you're a young coach or even an athlete, like you think I'm gonna be like whatever choice I make, I'm gonna be here forever, and this is gonna be my forever thing, and that's not necessarily true, right? You there are tons of stops along the way to find the thing, and sometimes it looks different for different people. But that's so awesome that you not only have been willing to make those moves, but also just see where where you're being led, and
Right.
that's
And I
cool.
think all of my moves to outsiders, it may look like, oh my gosh, she's just hopping around, right? But every single one of my moves, when I was a intern, I sat down and wrote like what was my end goal. And at the time for me, it was I want to be a Division 1 strength conditioning coach at a Power 5 school because there was still the Power 5, and I want to work women's soccer. That was my goal, and I achieved that goal pretty quickly, in my opinion. And but I had sub goals, right? What were the things I needed to achieve to help me achieve that goal? And I only focused on those things. So I interviewed for many jobs, I got offered many jobs, but I had to sit back and be like, is this move going to set me up for that end goal? And a lot of branches have come off of this. I want to be a Division 1 soccer strength conditioning coach. That's still my goal. I want to be where my feet are at, but now, okay, how do I build off of that? How do I equip and educate the next generation of strength coaches? Because I think in the soccer space, we're lacking. We need more really great soccer performance coaches. So that's why we hired a girl on our staff at Auburn that now I'm mentoring, right? And now I'm in charge of our sports science internship at Auburn. That's like kind of the next branch of how do I get really good at my job? I'm good at my job, I think. Now, how do I help other people be great and share my knowledge? So there's more of me in the world.
Yeah. No, that's so awesome. And I think, like you said, like any good coach who's trying to build towards the next goal can't see it as like, oh, I'm hopping around or I have all these other like so many opportunities that I'm just trying to take all of them. It's whatever's in support of the goal. And we try to share the same type of mentality that you're talking about with our athletes. Is if your goal is to play at a certain level at a certain school and be a competitor, you have to make a list of what your goal. You have to write your goals down. You have to make sub goals, like you said, and then follow them in sequence and see what you can do to make it a reality.
Mm.
And I think some of that can definitely be lost on kids who think that like, hey, I'm either going to get this one opportunity or I'm going to get nothing. It's like, well, sometimes you have to you have to scaffold it. Sometimes you have to build it up a little bit differently. But
Yeah, building off of that, and now maybe I'm getting way too far deep into goals and stuff. And I think it's just like daily habits. I read this book this summer. Uh, I was in therapy, and my therapist like, okay, you need to read this book, and basically take charge of like your daily habits. And in the book, it talks about like away moves and towards moves. And so
mm,
now I share this with my athletes. Okay, just spend a week and every day, single day, audit the decisions you make and how you behave, right? Like, do you choose to eat the apple or do you choose to eat the Twinkie, right? And is that an away move or is that a towards move? And so that's really how I think about things these days is okay, is every decision I make, is it towards my goal or is it away from my goal? Like, right, is it towards living a healthier lifestyle, which is probably going to help me achieve my goals, or is it steering me away from that?
100%. I love that. No, and that kind of like, especially as building daily habits, it kind of segues pretty nicely into the next thing we are curious about is kind of what's the day in the life for you look like at the Division 1 level as a strength coach?
Gosh, different every day. I had someone in administration actually at Auburn. Just he comes in and lifts in our weight room, and I was like, he has so much knowledge and he's more tenured than me and been in this space. I'm like, okay, he gives me some nuggets sometimes. And he's like, start auditing your time. And with that, he's like, when you come to work, your time is no longer yours. So I go to work every day with a tentative schedule of, okay, we're going to have practice at this time, lift at this time, but something's thrown at me every single day. But I'll just give you kind of a general idea of like where I'm at right now, because
Yeah.
different semesters, different periods of time look different. So currently we're in an 8-hour period. We're in the off season. We can only train soccer for 8 hours. 4 hours of on the ball technical tactical work, and then the other 4 hours we can use whatever way we want, meetings, performance training, but the coaches can't be involved. We use 4 hours of our soccer for sure, and then the other 4 hours are all physical development. So I get them for 4 hours. That looks like weight room, speed work, conditioning, you name it. So everything happens in the afternoon for us. So I get into work. Typically I'm training, I'm meeting with our interns about different topics, educating them, sitting in various meetings. Like today, I'm doing this podcast at 12 o'clock. I have a meeting with a data analyst for like US soccer to pick his brain. Then I'll sit down with our coaches, talk about the practice plan, head in the training room, meet with our athletic trainer just about the day and any modifications that need to be made, set up for practice. I'm at every soccer practice and I run our warm up and I'll microdose our speed, acceleration, change of direction work in that. So I'll go out to the field, set up for the session, go into practice. Then we got lift after today. And so then we'll transition over to the weight room, I think at like 5:05 p.m. and we'll wrap up around 6:05. Then I'll head back to the soccer building, download the catapult data because I manage all of our sports science, shoot out the training report, and then come home at like 8 and do it all over again tomorrow. But, I think I love what I do and I'm passionate about what I do. And I work for a staff that values the role I play in the development of our program. So I have no complaints working for 12 hours some days to help move the needle forward. But there's a general idea of like what my day looks like.
Yeah, no, that's super valuable just as just a perspective for us, like knowing that like every day you have certain amounts of priorities and certain things that need to get done and other things that are trying to like obviously in your position there can be a lot of like little fires to put out or little tasks that can be assisting in moving that needle forward. But yeah, at the end of it, if you're someone like you are who's committed to moving a culture forward and building a program and making things around you better, it's got to feel almost effortless to let
And
that kind of move forward.
I think my role at Auburn is pretty unique in our program. I tell people these days I spend maybe 10% of my time in the weight room. Like that's 10% of my job. I play a pretty large role in like the planning of practice when it comes to like technical, tactical, and physical periodization. I spend more time on the soccer field. I spend more time in the training room engaging with our student athletes, and then working on some larger projects departmentally within sports performance. I spend the least amount of my time training kids in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I think outsider looking in, people are like, oh, strength and conditioning coach, they just strength train and condition kids. They do that all day. And I'm like, I'm going to do that for 1 hour today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, you see like smaller programs and they have strength and conditioning coaches that are assigned to way too many teams. And from the outside, it's like, hey, like, what do you got to do? You got to write a good program for 8 teams and kind of just show up and you're in the weight room for 8 to 10 hours of the day. But, if you can fill an entire workday providing value to one high level team, that gets really, really tough. Especially, at a D2 or D3 level where resources aren't as good and there's not as many strength coaches in that department. And so I think that's really valuable for any of our interns that listen or any kids that are listening that like are interested in getting into collegiate strength and conditioning. I also think something that you mentioned, something that you talked about is really valuable for our athletes that are looking to play at a collegiate level, is that, really every day after practice, your athletes are coming in and doing some sort of work in the weight room. And I don't think that that's always a habit that kids are ready to um, participate in when they get to college. And I would say most of the athletes that we train are at a point that they understand that and they know that priority. But that's not the case across the board. And, have you seen a big adjustment from kids who come in and maybe they didn't get a lot of supplemental training in high school, they didn't get a lot of performance training, and it's just like kind of a big like adjustment to get over the hump of training with a collegiate team 4 to 5 times a week?
Oh yeah. I think that it also varies by sport. So take baseball, for example. I feel like baseball players, the more elite baseball players, even your like mid-major guys, like they're in a gym. They understand that this is part of the culture of college baseball is there's a ton of phenomenal college baseball strength coaches. And these guys are lifting heavy, they're moving really well. In college soccer, that's like not a thing. Like the culture around soccer and strength and conditioning, it's toxic, right? Coaches think this is making my athletes big, slow, and bulky. Right now, we're just shoving more and more technical training and stacking soccer training days on top of each other. It begins at the youth level. There's not enough general physical development in the soccer space. So, right, focusing on like the population I work with, I have 6 early enrollees. So we have 6 of our 7 freshmen on campus right now that will begin. Technically, they'll be freshmen this fall. And, kids don't know what they don't know. I sent them training 4 months before they got on campus. They were working through a training program through Train Heroic. I try to just teach really great general movement patterns. They tell me, oh, I'm really good at this. And then I get them in front of me and I'm like, gosh, we can't even front squat the barbell. Like, but I really we're in week 2. So we'll have our second session of the week today. I use these first 2 weeks just to gather information about how these kids are moving. We have some that move really great. And I'm like, okay, we can progress forward. We have others that I'm like, all right, let's get the barbell out of your hands, go back to goblet squat, or maybe we need to modify some things on the field. I have a young lady, and this isn't a bash at her. She probably has grown 4 or 5 inches since she committed to Auburn at whatever age and hasn't grown into her body well, right? She hasn't been able to understand how to move well in space with this extra load and extra height. And so some of the on-field work that I'm doing from an acceleration standpoint, I'm having them start in a 2-point start. We're doing falling starts. That's not great for her. My GA interns and we've taken some videos. I'm like, all right, we need to start with some softer starts. She's going to do some drop-ins where she's skipping and we're getting her a little bit more up tall because she's just dumping forward. To answer your question, it's all over the place. But I think that's why places like your own and, I'm running my own business on the side now for just soccer athletes is so important and so valuable to help bridge that gap because the gap is huge. Right? You come to college, the intensity of practice is not only higher, but then throw on top of it, you got to go to lift however many times a week before or after practice. You got conditioning, you got speed work. You're trying to manage going to class, a social life. Then the athletic trainer wants you in for rehab. I'm asking you to fill out a wellness survey, RPE every day. And it's just like, okay, I can't keep up. Like for most of these kids, it's like, the first month is like a culture shock and they can't even think straight.
Yeah. That's all super helpful. I mean, I'm glad you shared that. And from your experience with soccer, we kind of run into some of the same stuff in terms of, soccer athletes being the ones that just have the most practices and the most technical work to get in. And we're blessed with some soccer players who get it and really prioritize physical development. One of the big things that we run into is sort of this idea that I can't be doing, too much. Like I'm spread too thin if I come in and do, my physical development training, my speed and my strength work. And unfortunately, the stakes only get higher the older you get and the higher your competition level gets. And I would rather a kid be doing a little bit too much right now in 8th or 9th grade than roll into you as a freshman in college and just be overwhelmed and have that culture shock. We want to get in front of that, certainly.
Yeah, and maybe going off tangent just a little bit, and I'm gonna have a little TED talk here for any parents that listen, or like youth athletes, soccer or not soccer. Um, there's a ton of technical coaches these days, or pitching coaches, or hitting coaches, or shooting coaches for basketball. And you see it all over social media, and some of it's good, and a lot of it is piss poor. And in the soccer world, you have kids jumping over a hurdle, doing icky shuffles through ladders, and then passing a ball. And I'm like, and people are like, oh, this is how the pros train. And my brother and I, we run a business, and he was actually talking to the parents of our community the other day, and he's like, I play professional soccer, and if I'm going to go out to the pitch and work on shooting, all I'm going to simply do is receive the ball, turn, and shoot. I'm not going to step over 5 hurdles. I'm not going to icky shuffle through ladders. Like, I'm going to work on my craft in the most simple way possible. And that's that. So I think that piece, like parents, athletes, it doesn't need to be fancy. Stop chasing the Instagram reel, the highlight reel, the fluff. Find people who teach simple really well when it comes to sport, but then find a performance coach who's going to teach you to move really well and just do simple, and it's going to be monotonous. Learn to front squat. And I like when my kids squat butt to the ground, right? Hamstrings to calves. And you're just going to practice that over and over and over again. You're going to practice a single leg depth squat until you're doing it in your sleep. But it's just a process that takes time, and it's supposed to be a little monotonous. It's not supposed to be different every single day.
Yeah, we'll clip that TED Talk.
Oh, yeah.
We'll listen to that one. No, that's so true. And it's something that we so similarly are preaching to kids constantly. It's like, we're not here to reinvent the wheel of strength and conditioning. We're not here to make you do the most flashy thing just to post it on Instagram. Are you getting better? Like, are you becoming the most competent, confident mover? The most efficient and effective way to develop strength is just to keep doing it, right? And if you're doing it on top of doing what you're doing outside of here, with regard to individual training or team training of your sport, like, you're just going to improve. You're just going to get better. And it doesn't have to be rocket surgery.
Right. And I look at my own group here at Auburn. I've been here for a year, and we've front squatted once a week for a year. And I'm not going to change it. Like, we're just going to keep front squatting. And I've had moments where I'm like, hey, do we back squat? Like, do we traverse squat? And I'm like, nope, we're in a front squat. And the volume and intensity will undulate and change based on the point in the season that we're at. Maybe the depth that we squat to will adjust. And right, I have people that are modified. I have girls that go on a pitch shark. I have people that trap bar. My goalkeepers are now safety bar squatting for various injury reasons or just training history reasons. But I just stick to the basics. And I think the kids find success in, okay, I've progressed from a year ago. I've put 50 more pounds on the bar. Or from last week to this week, I've added 5 pounds on each side, right? And so for them, that's a win. Like, as coaches, I think we get more bored with the training before the kids even do, because we want variance where they're experiencing success and they're feeling a win because they're seeing the progress that's being made in X, Y, and Z movements, and then how it's translating to other aspects of their training.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like, it's like you said, it's definitely more monotonous for us as coaches because we know how fun it is to program things that are more different, more exciting, more whatever. But yeah, creating a space, like for us, our place is all about creating a space to stack wins. Like, we want them to continue building confidence and continue not only in themselves, but in their preparation, their performance, and have a place where they can safely do that and know that that's where they're going to find a lot of the confidence when approaching their time in a competitive environment. But yeah, so big subject matter that I know that you probably are preaching constantly, but you have the advantage of like making it a mandatory part of their day is in-season training, especially with regard to our athletes. We'll have a large faction, specifically like baseball, softball, just because of how long their season tends to be as it flows from spring into summer, with a huge drop off of just they'll go from either 3 to 5 times a week and then drop it to sometimes absolutely zero for 6 months. And we're like, what do you guys need to see? What do you guys need to realize that if you don't continue or at least put yourself on maintenance mode for a little while, this drop off is going to be detrimental to your progression as an athlete and like your potential to reach a certain level of even getting offers. So what's your guys' protocol when it comes to like prioritization of in-season training? How does that kind of shift and change the way that you program things in season versus gearing up for season?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think that I'm truly fortunate to work with a coaching staff that finds value in the performance space and understands and believes how important it is year round. So I've been in programs where head coaches have taken lift away in season, or we've gone from 2 lifts to 1 lift, or we've gone from an hour to 30 minutes. And my head coach, I have to almost fight him that, like, okay, I don't need that much time. Like, this is what we need and that will be enough, right? I'm always in season. I'm like, what's the minimal effective dose? Because in season, it's all about stress management. We're just managing stress from all these different avenues. But in season, we will lift twice a week. Now, where those lifts fall is based on typically where our matches fall. College soccer for women, a lot of times we play on Thursdays, Sundays. We will lift match day -2, so Tuesday, 2 days prior to our first match of the week, and we will lift match day +1. So if we play on a Thursday, we will lift on a Friday. If we play a 1 match week, that may look a little different. We may not lift the day after the match. We may lift like 2 days before that. If we have enough time to lift twice before the match, cool. But typically, let's say we're in that normal Thursday, Sunday model, lifting on a Tuesday. That's our heavier strength day. And I would say like strength power day, typically in season, where then and it's a total body lift. For the most part, majority of the group is doing the same thing, but there's clear modifications and differences across different buckets of my program. Then Friday, that lift post-match, what people are doing, it depends a lot on their playing time in that match the day prior, how much time we predict they may play and make an impact on Sunday's match, and then just total accumulation of fatigue and match minutes throughout the season as a whole. So that lift earlier on in the season, I'm a little bit more aggressive sometimes. Even if you played high minutes, like we're still getting after it. That day we would front squat. We'd do like our bilateral squat pattern. So early in the season, I'm like, everyone's getting under the bar. We're getting after it. Later in the season, I'm like, okay, now you get some options. If you're feeling pretty crappy, go grab a dumbbell goblet squat. If you want to do trap bar squat. Like, I let the kids kind of drive the ship a little bit, because at the end of the day, I don't know how they feel. Like, they're the only ones. They have to be their own biggest advocate. And we give them the floor and the tools from an education standpoint to do that. We're for sure in the gym twice a week. I manage, right, like sprint volume. So anything over 85% of each individual athlete's max velocity. Buckets based on position. We know how much on average we want each group to be hitting, just from a soft tissue injury minimization standpoint. Same with ACell, decell efforts. So we're pretty consistent. We didn't miss a lift this past season at all. We were right on point twice a week, always. If we're on the road, okay, we'll get in the hotel gym if we need to and do things and modify as needed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sweet. I would love to follow up with, for any athletes listening that are like, that's awesome, but why? Why are you doing that? What do you see as kind of your primary, most important reasons for continuing to hit that performance stuff in season and not just being like, I'm doing all of my energy towards soccer, right? But
yep. Well, my view is that training is prehab, rehab, and performance enhancement. So we're hitting all the things, right? You look at a soccer player and the common injuries, ankle injuries, knee injuries, ACLs, meniscus, PCL, you name it, concussions. And then you get some things that like the low back sometimes, just various soft tissue injuries, quads, hamstrings. I'm hitting everything. We're squatting, we're hinging, we're pushing, we're pulling, we're stabilizing through the pillar. I always touch on the adductors. I always touch on the hip flexors. We're doing something for the calf or the ankle complex. And I always do neck strengthening. So I'm trying to hit all key movement patterns and everything to help minimize the risk or severity of injury when it does occur. So I think that if you just stop doing those things, we're setting ourselves up for failure, where I hope, in collaboration with my athletic trainer, I can take some of the load off of her, right? If I can help keep the athletes healthy, maybe it keeps them out of the training room, right? Or I can fill some of the buckets for her so that she doesn't have to prescribe 5 hip flexor exercises for our kids because I'm hitting on it twice a week, whether that's in the gym or in our warm up. So that's probably my biggest one. I think the next one is just long-term athletic development. And I'm big on, my job is to understand where each athlete's role is in the program in season. Some athletes are playing crucial minutes, and I need them to feel their best every single match. Other kids are coming off the bench and are, in my opinion, they're game changers. You need to be able to go on the pitch and impact the game, whether on the field for 5 minutes or 20 minutes. And then other kids are foundational. They may not play tomorrow, they might not play this year, but am I helping them grow and develop so when their name is called next year, we haven't sat in our hands all season last season and done absolutely nothing for the development, and then they turn to me and are like, well, Susie is still slow. So I think just from a long-term athletic development standpoint, we got 28 kids on the roster. Only 11 are starting the game. So what are the other 17 doing?
Yeah, totally. And that's so important for kids to realize, is you're not just thinking about this weekend's game. You're thinking about like next year. Next year for varsity tryouts, are you 30% faster and stronger than you were this year? Or next year when you roll into your junior year of college, are you ready to be selected as a starter, or are you kind of getting passed up by people who are training? And it really isn't about the fact that you just have a game this weekend.
Yep. And I think for any youth athletes, high school athletes thinking about going to play college sports, right? And I look, again, using soccer as an example, we have our early enrollees here now. But say you're a freshman coming into college in the fall, you get 3 weeks of training before we start like actual preseason, and then we play a game eight days in. Like, if you're behind, if you haven't been training, you're sitting on the bench. Sorry, point blank period. Unless you're a phenomenal soccer player, you're probably not going to see the field because there's people in front of you that have spent 2, 3, 4 years in the program developing athletically. And the SEC is what I call the athlete conference. We may not have the prettiest soccer, but girls are going to come trucking through you, and there's like no mercy. And so if you're small and fragile, you're not going to get to see the field because physically you can't line up to the girl standing across from you on the other team.
Absolutely.
I think a big thing that some people don't understand too is like when you come into when you go into freshman year, you're like 17 or 18. And with all the years that the NCAA is giving out and everything, you could be playing dudes and girls that are like 24,
Yeah.
25. Like, that's a huge age gap.
Yeah, and they know how to like use their physical attributes to their advantage, where a lot of times like freshmen do not. But I think just you have to bridge that gap. We have a freshman right now, or early enrollee, right? And we've only been training for a week and a half. But just last night, I was thinking, and our coach said to me, he's like, she doesn't look like a freshman, right? But I know she had a great performance coach that she trained with, and he did nothing groundbreaking. Like, this dude loved isometrics, and he just taught really great movement patterns. But that set her up for a ton of success to come into our program and use her body and her physicality to advantage to compete with girls on the team that are fifth years.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, that's where we feel like we have such an awesome opportunity as a private facility to send some of these kids into programs and have them be like, where did you train? Like, you clearly have trained, and like you clearly, and our hope is that they feel like they've been trained extraordinarily well, because we even had a girl who went from here. She early enrolled in Iowa, and then she just transferred to Ball State. Shout out Callie. And she texted me just the other day and was like, hey, I got she out of the blue, she said, I got complimented very much on my lifting form today. I just thought it would let you know. I was like, that's awesome. That fires me up. Like it's people that you want to see succeed, and if they are just consistent over the long term, like you're going to see a radical difference between them and their peers, just from even something like starting in middle school and 2 days a week all the way through high school. They're just different.
Yeah. In my own like private business, everything I do for the most part, it's all remote, but I have a unique set of clients here in Auburn that I train in person. And it's a brother sister duo. One of them is an 11-year-old boy, one is a 14-year-old girl, and I train them at 5:30 in the morning, right? Because that's what works with my schedule and that's the time they actually have picked. But I'm just like, I sit back every single day and I'm like, gosh, like, wow, I have an awesome opportunity to influence these kids' lives on so many levels. I don't take that for granted at all. But like, how awesome that this 11-year-old, his parents are investing in his development as a person because he's getting out of bed at 5:15 to train. A lot of life lessons there. He's small but mighty. He's not the biggest kid on the field. He's the shortest kid on the field. But hopefully this is going to set him up for so much success from a physicality standpoint so that when he continues to have to compete against these players that are bigger and stronger than him, right, he has an extra edge and kind of armor to keep him safe on the field. So
Yeah,
I
that
think the earlier you can get these kids and just teach them great movement patterns, the better.
yeah, it's that mental and physical resiliency, right? That's that's the foundation of all of it. So in the last few minutes that we have, I really want to just ask you. I know we've talked kind of woven it into the whole episode of just different thoughts with regards to youth training and like kids who like in our facility, because we have middle schoolers like sixth grade all the way up through like some people who go to college like locally and abroad. So what are some of the biggest gaps that you see for kids coming into, I know Mike kind of alluded to this, like people coming into a program like Auburn who have not had the same kind of physical development training? What are some of the biggest gaps that you see and things that we as a private facility sending kids out that you think that they need to hear and to prepare to play at a level like that?
Yeah, I think from a physical preparation standpoint, and let's just stick on like in the weight room for right now. I have like 5 key movement patterns, which a lot of coaches do: squat, hinge, push, pull, stabilize through the pillar, rotate, whatever. So many kids don't know how to squat. They definitely, teaching the hinge is the hardest thing to do. I've been teaching this 11-year-old boy to hinge his hips, right? And we've come up with a lot of different ways to do it, but like, so crucial. I think when I look at my population as female soccer players, I want them to be able to do push-ups and I want them to be able to do chin-ups, pull-ups, push and pull your own body weight. Kids don't know how to do that. But then these have these trainers that will have them push heavy sleds and do wacky things. And I'm like, they just don't know the foundation. So just stick to the foundation and do the foundation really well, because all those movement patterns will set you up for all the other things. Right. And now I'll go off on a little tangent. I think my job as the performance coach is to understand the game of soccer. Okay. The soccer actions. The game of soccer is attack, transition, defend. That's the coaching staff's and the player's job. My job is to train the basic actions. The basic actions support our soccer actions. So my job is to train horizontal acceleration, deceleration, vertical acceleration, deceleration, right? Change of direction. Soccer's a combative sport, contact with the ball and player. So I'm supposed to train all those things. Then I get to my movement patterns, right? What are my muscle actions? My front squat, right? How is that helping me train horizontal acceleration, right? My RDL, how is that helping with those components, right? And then looking at the common injuries of the sport. But I think that a lot of times y'all are doing a great job. I talked about that athlete that came in. She's doing a great job. There's other kids that have come in that went to training. I'm like, whoa, where have you been training? Not from a good standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So I just think that if everyone can just stick to doing basics really well, let's do that. And then with the youth, like the 11-year-old, like I just hammer isometrics. We do iso split squat, iso glute bridges, single leg, bilateral, iso chin ups, ISO push-up hold. I think that's the biggest bang for your buck with that level of athlete, and keeping them safe as their bodies still grow and mature without putting like a barbell in their hands or on their back.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's exactly the type of philosophy that we have. Like, because we don't have the same specific focus of every single athlete, like we're not responsible for a whole soccer team. Like, obviously you have that super narrowed focus for your team. For us, it's how do we, on the individual level, prepare them for just the demands of whatever their sport is. Like, so for our baseball players, like, we're not going to have our middle infielders or catchers do the same type of arm and hip care as a pitcher, but they are all going to do the same basic patterns in order to build general strength, general athleticism, and general rotational power, right? But no, all the things that you're saying when it comes to youth development especially is exactly where we're at and where we're gonna stay.
Yeah, I love that. And it's super important. And I think you said like the general movement patterns, right? I want kids to just come into college and be great generalists at moving. I don't need you to do anything crazy. I just need you to do the basics really well.
Absolutely. No, that's so encouraging, and it's fun for us to hear, like, hey, like, we're not only are we in a good spot, but like there are people at the next level who care about the same things and want the same types of things for their athletes, and that's what it's all about, right? We're here for the athletes. Like, we care about helping people get better. We want to see them continually get better, and that's the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so fun. Malorie, like, thank you so much for your time. I don't know if Cooper or Mike, if you guys have additional like follow-up questions or things you want to get into the weeds with in the last couple minutes, but
No, I think I shot mine out there. Thought we got a lot of valuable insight from you. So yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
I kind of have one little fun question left. What is the most creative thing you've had to do on the road with one of your teams?
Oh, most creative thing. When I was at Baylor, we had, unfortunately, I walked into a situation with lots of injury. We had a large injured roster when I first got there, and it kind of stayed the same. And so we would go on the road and we'd have 7 people that needed to train, that were traveling. And so you go into some of these hotel gyms. I don't have one specific thing, but you go into a hotel gym that has a treadmill, an elliptical, and a dumbbell rack. You start to get really creative. And so I think we would do a lot of times we do like circuit style things, or moving around the room. But sometimes we'd take the dumbbells in like the team meeting room and just kind of like take over the place. And there's been situations where we had a match and we're on the road for 6 days and we went out to a local park, and then the low minute kids did their conditioning that morning at the local park before we got on the bus to head to our next stop that was 4 hours away on that road trip. So I can't pinpoint anything like wild and out of the blue. But I think in those moments is what's made me such a great coach. But I'll kind of go back to my time at Spring Arbor when I was a student. After I did my internship at TCU, our baseball strength coach came to me and was like, "Oh, you're learning from Coach Dakin. Like, can you run our baseball program?" I'm like, at the time, I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Like, let's do this." My guy friends, we'd wake up 3 times a week. In the fall of 2019, I was the strength coach for Spring Arbor baseball, and we had 2 squat racks, and we would have like 30 something guys in the gym, of 2 racks and some rusty old dumbbells. And I think I look back and I'm like, that actually set me up for so much success in my career, because so early on I had to get really creative. All I did was run Coach Dakin's foundation program, like point blank period. I just took his lifts and put them into our baseball lift, right? But how I had to run the room was completely different. So that was probably actually the most creative I've ever been, because tell me how I ran 30 guys through 2 squat racks.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I did.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's awesome. That just it shows you how important it is to just get the work in, regardless of
Exactly.
if it's perfect or not.
Yeah, I always say kind of like what you were going off of or saying earlier, of like some, D2, D3 coaches have like 8 teams. Like, yeah, they're probably a better coach than me, because they probably have less resources and have to adapt and evolve their training around the environment they have, where I work in a weight room with over 30 squat racks and all the equipment you could possibly imagine and 100 yards of turf. So I'm not working in any constraints that are really prohibiting me from writing whatever type of training I want.
Yeah, that's something that we've come back to a few times on the podcast, but just, as coaches professionally, is realizing within the industry that other coaches have that we are really privileged with what we have set up, the resources we have set up, the way we're able to train kids, and other coaches, whether it's the local high school strength coaches who are dealing with it's one man versus 50 people in a weight room for 45 minutes, or a similar thing with the local colleges that have their strength coaches. And when our kids come in and tell us what they do, and it's like it's not perfect, we could sit around and be like, wow, like we do such a better job. No, it's just a different environment, right? We're privileged to have a really good environment, but the fact that that's offered and kids are able to go in and at least get some training is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and I think to echo something you just said, I'm big on educating our interns and our grad assistants on there's just so much on social media, and I share a lot of things on social media. But I've walked in the room early on in my time at Auburn, our GAs were kind of like talking crap about some other coach and like, well, why don't they do this? And I'm like, you have no context. You have no idea how their room is set up. You have no idea if they're sharing the space. You don't know their athlete to equipment ratio. You don't know what their head coach parameters are, right? Because head coaches at the end of the day, they're driving the ship. And if they don't want their kids to squat, they're probably not going to squat. Unless that person's done a really great job educating and being an advocate for their training. But there's just so much context that we don't have when looking at other people's programming and how they implement training. I always think that's super important to like what you said, and I applaud you for that, right? At the end of the day, the coach is probably doing the best that they possibly can with what they have. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I think it takes, perspective to get there. And certainly you have had enough experiences to have that perspective for sure.
No, that's fantastic. Malorie, we want to be super respectful of your time. We know you have more meetings and things to do today, but again, we couldn't be more thankful for your time and your insights and your expertise. And we're really fired up to be able to share this podcast with our athletes and our listeners, our parents, all those things. It's going to be super valuable. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. And if anyone knows, I can yap.
That's all good.
That's
what
one
we're here
thing I'm
for.
really good at.